Okay, I'm live. I'm live and I'm staying live, and I'm bringing Bernadette Gold back on. Our interview was taken down. I got no emails. I got no copyright strikes. Um, there was absolutely nothing wrong with that interview. I was not in that editing program or whatever, so I couldn't have even accidentally deleted it. I'm pretty pumped up about this. Gonna have talked with Bernadette. She brought it to my attention, and we're gonna do another interview. She'll be coming on shortly, as soon as I can send her the invite. Yeah, I'm pretty upset by that. No reason for that to happen, unless, of course, we touched on something. So I've heard about things like this happening before, about where people would have their likes taken away, or more dislikes popped up, or their videos taken down without any notice at all. And I'm only in the Mandela Effect community, so that's naturally all I'm going to hear about. But there was no reason for that. And so I talked with her, and we're going to do another interview. She's going to be coming on shortly. I've been putting together what I'd like to do for the next video. And you know what? The things I've been talking about, the collective, that's coming up. The collective. I should get on here and find out if you guys can even hear me, because I've been having some problems with my microphone. I probably should have tested this all out with her first. Go figure. Send the link. All right, she's about to come on. But this happened before with one of my other live streams. It just wasn't coming up for people. Who was it? I forget. Just wasn't showing up. And then finally, eventually it showed up and we got on there. A lot of the things I'd like to talk about that I can expand on that we talked about before. We talked about the collective and how not to turn your back on certain negative things that are going on in the world, because I want to say I was doing that in a way I really wasn't, because I would be praying or meditating or decreeing, but I wouldn't get involved. And she turned it around to, that's probably okay. I mean, you're not really turning your back on it then. We didn't get into that verbatim, but that's how I took it. So going to have Bernadette Gold come on, and her and I are going to do another interview, and talk about the Mandela Effect, her abilities, and what her take is on the Mandela Effect. We did this last Sunday. It's been up for 3 days. I was looking at it this morning to check out views and see if people were resonating towards what she said, and if there were any comments, and checking it out this morning. And I just got a text from her that said, "Hey, what happened? Something wrong. It says you took the video down." I'm like, no. So I'm running all over the place, and it's nowhere to be found. The video's not there, and Bernadette's on.
I am. That was like the quickest get ready that I've ever done.
Oh, look at that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think we need to. I don't understand why it would have been taken down. It could not have been. Could it have been an accident on my part? I always want to say, yeah, it could have been, but I didn't.
There's no way, and it was getting a bunch of views, so it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And had a bunch of comments on it too, so strange.
Yeah, I'm sure we hit on something. Well, I guess let's start out with, let's talk about you, how you got your abilities, how you felt about those things when it happened. I would like to get into the whole collective thing.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, I'm
Um,
sending a message. I'm gonna send a link out
oh yeah, great.
on my page because I was actually supposed to do a live stream today, but we're doing this now. So
I hope I'm not interrupting.
no, it's fine. It doesn't matter where the information comes out, whether it's yours or mine. When you download it, send me a copy though, and I'll upload a copy too.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll be keeping this interview.
God, how crazy. So yeah,
Makes no sense to me at all.
it kind of does not, but at the same time, I thought that only happened in the young, like the teenage groups. Like I thought they were the only ones that did stuff like that.
I don't know. Apparently, you can manipulate YouTube, delete videos, add thumbs up, add thumbs down.
Wow.
But I got no email whatsoever from YouTube. I've got no copyright strikes on that. Hey, Armor Up, what's up? Armor Up says, "Father's love, Bernadette."
Cool. Bless you,
Uh,
brother.
um, yeah, no reason why the video should have been taken down. I don't see, unless we really touched on something
I
strong.
said the F word once accidentally, but
I've
I
said them on
mean,
my videos. It's happened. People say them on my videos accidentally.
it was with effect. So, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, you wanted me to tell you about what I do, who I am, or something? What?
Yeah, you could just, how did you get your gifts? When did they start? When did you first start noticing the Mandela effect, or what they call the Mandela effect, which is not what you called it?
Mm-mm. No, we all have our names for it. I've heard it called different things. Some people call it quantum jumping, um, timeline shifting, timeline jumping, Mandela effect. I think I've never called it that because I've never really looked it up to see what other people were calling it. But yeah, it's been going on for a long time. My gifts, I was born clairvoyant, clairaudient, and empathic. And
What's the difference between clairvoyant and clairaudient?
clairvoyant is clear seeing, right? Clairaudient, clear hearing. And then I'm
Makes sense.
clairsentient, which is clear sensing, which is what I try and get all empaths to become instead of just empathic, to become clear sensing so that you know where energies are coming from. You're not just hit by a bunch of energies and feel like you're being bowled over.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
was happening with me. And then I got those exercises off you, those tools, and they have been helping me immensely. I feel more myself. It's still a test. I mean, it's only been a couple weeks, but it's, every once in a while I still get tested, but I forget to apply. And once I apply that, start with all this stuff, and it goes, and but it's definitely helping me. I'm not picking up all of the crap around me.
Which
I'm
is
able to
important.
hold it off.
You're going to be sane and have these gifts, especially empaths, because empaths just, so many times when you don't know what's happening to you, the thing with empaths, they absorb it. And then it's like you feel what the other person's feeling. So if they come to you desperate, and this is where empaths always get in trouble, is someone will come to them and they're freaking out. And oh my God, my life is falling apart. You take that energy on, then it mixes with yours, it amplifies, and now you're screwed because the only way for you to feel better since you've absorbed it is to get them to feel better, in which case you have no boundaries anymore and you say yes to whatever they're asking, even if it's your last $100, which is what happens to a lot of empaths. And it's unfortunate, it doesn't have to be that way, which is why, finally after all these years I offered that standalone empath class because so many people have asked me for it. So yeah. Armor saying they took down the live.
Yeah, he's surprised. He's as surprised as we are that they took down that live stream, especially with no reason. I got no email. I got no
I don't think
response. I was
YouTube
just,
did it because it says on there that you deleted it.
yeah, it says say I deleted the video down. So somebody probably got into my account, hacked my account, and deleted it.
Rude.
Um, I,
So we're
I
protecting this one now. This one is
yeah,
protected
yeah.
and all the information in it is protected. And I don't know if I said something to trigger somebody to do that. Nothing I say should trigger anyone. I guess if it does, that's for them to look at, but to be kind
Yeah.
of spiteful and take a video down.
Well, It could just be a troll.
And I'm happy to do it again. I mean, I like having a conversation with you. Everyone in my Facebook group really liked it, and yeah, I was hoping that some people would kind of open their eyes to some new things. Talking about Mandela effects. I mean, you asked me when was my first Mandela effect. I don't even know how to answer that question because coming from a background of abuse when I was a kid, lots of times I pitched out. Lots of times I
What do
was
you mean pitched out?
well, pitched out. My consciousness just went someplace else and my body may have been there, but I was not conscious of what was going on around me, which I've talked to a lot of people who have the ability and gifts to kind of refocus their consciousness. And you hear this a lot from people who are traumatized where like they're being abused, and I'm not going to get graphic, but and then they just check out. They're someplace else and their body's taking it, but they're not feeling it because their consciousness is focused someplace else. Different timeline, different events where this isn't happening. So from a very young age, I was able to play with stuff like that. And it was my best friend. I mean, it saved me from wanting, to not
Hmm.
be there physically. And I found that that's to be true with a lot of trauma victims that I've worked with throughout the years.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
When did you first notice a change in something? I'm assuming you were a bit older then.
I think it became more conscious of it for sure in my 20s that things like that were happening. I like I told you in the live stream that was taken down, like I get these tones and I've had that high pitched frequency in my ear that a lot of people are hearing right now and have been for the last several months and really increased right now. Like,
Years for me.
yeah, my ears right now, like more my
Well,
right than my
years. I said
left.
years. I've been hearing
Oh,
the high
years.
pitched ringing for
Yeah.
years, and
And some people have, but a lot of people are just now realizing that they're hearing it now. And young people, not just people our age, where, the doctors can say it's tinnitus, like young people are hearing it too. But I've been hearing that for as far back as I can remember. But the thing where my ears would shut down, like one ear, wind would blow through my ears and one ear would close off and then the other, and it creates like a tunnel effect, sort of an echo. And the only thing I can really hear clearly is the voice of spirit. Right before or right after that happened is when I would notice something would change. And then I could change it back or it would just change back, and you're just standing in place watching this thing. And it's kind of like, how do I explain it? Um,
a flip flop.
yeah, but
That's what the
it's
Mandela
weird
effect
because
calls it.
even in your vision, um, I shouldn't say this, but have you ever done
Please
ecstasy?
do. They'll take it down. No, I've never
So
done
there's
that.
this thing that happened when I did ecstasy once, and I've only done it once, but there's this thing that happened with my eyes. Your eyes wobble, like
Mhm.
they kind of get to this weird. Anyone that's done it probably would tell you the same thing if they do a high enough dose, but your eyes wobble. But without being on any drugs, that's kind of what would happen. Is for a second my eyes would wobble, and then it would change back.
That's happened to me. No, I don't think. I didn't even look at it. um, and that was what when you would notice a change. And you said you could do it yourself. You would change it back, or sometimes it would just change back
Sometimes
on
it
its
would
own.
change back, yeah. Someone in the chat room saying disassociation. It is disassociation unless you're doing it consciously. The more, funny enough, you can do that. And yes, psychologists call it disassociation, but if you do it consciously and you're jumping to a different timeline, then you call it the Mandela effect, especially if something happened, something changed, everything changes with you're in the same place, but these people aren't around that are screaming or doing whatever they're doing. And then in a split second, you're back and they're all there again. So what do you call that? Disassociation? Yeah, I guess maybe. But I also think that there's a lot more to it than we actually realize. One of my guides is constantly telling me these things that we have psychological terms for aren't always necessarily true. You and I were talking on the show the other night about um, people with schizophrenia, and a lot of those people, they have the veil just, it's not there. They're tapping into many different dimensions and many different timelines that are all around them and they have no control over it. And are they schizophrenic? I don't know if you've seen those articles that with people that have been taken to the shamans, and actually trained to control it. And lo and behold, they were not schizophrenic. They were just wide open channels. And they had no
Wow.
control over how many channels of information they were pulling in at any given time.
See, now I have schizophrenia in my family. She, it was bad early on. I knew it. Didn't see her a lot or whatever, but my family would talk about it. And I'd say last year, just getting into the Mandela Effect, I called up the family during Thanksgiving to quiz them all. And she was there and she got every answer right. And she was so proud of herself. She has figured out which timeline she's in. I mean, that's how I would word it. She's figured out how to act normal to everybody else
Mhm.
because she's like, I know that one. And she just kept getting them all right. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what's up with that. I'm like, everybody else in the family's going, oh, who cares? The Lindbergh baby was a boy. I thought it was a girl. I'm like, wow.
But I mean, think about like how many times throughout history a group of people, whether it was the women that were burned as witches because they were still practicing pagan beliefs and doing those kinds of natural ceremonies, whatever, because it didn't go along with what the mainstream society, decided was the norm. How many times have people been put in mental hospitals, were
I've said
persecuted,
that.
right? Like
I've
how
said that
many
they have
times?
memories of a different timeline, so they're nuts. Let's put them in a home and give them pills.
But so if people and science and the mainstream's finally starting to accept how many years later that in fact everything is fluid, everything changes, nothing is really as solid as we think, that time really doesn't exist, all these things are being proven by science finally. But there's still this belief that if it doesn't fit in the nice box that mainstream has accepted as normal, then it must not be true. Or it must be, let's put a psychological term to it and call them crazy. Let's medicate them and get them back into mainstream where they're not thinking, they're not creative, they're not awake, they don't have power and control over creating their own realities or shifting and changing anything for themselves. And then, hey, don't believe that you're a multidimensional being either. Just fit into a
Yeah,
nice box where we can control you, because that's the name of the game.
true. And that's the other thing I wanted to touch on: the masculine versus the feminine. Um, the world in the last 2,000 years is based in masculine energy. True. I mean, it's a masculine world.
Power and
Okay.
greed, action
And
oriented,
and
absolutely.
okay. And now a lot of the things that have been happening in the last few years, like one of the first things I noticed in 2015, most of the shows on TV had a female lead. Um, Continuum, Fringe, Star Trek. It just they all had female leads, and all this feminine energy started to come out. And now other people are talking about how the everything's going feminine. Men are confused. Some, not me, but some are. And um, to me, this all this feminine energy coming in is just a balance. That's what it was. When we were talking about that before, was it something else to you? Was it, what did you say?
Well, I think that there's a huge movement of energy, and it's been around for a while now, but it's heightening, right? Like it's really amping up that the feminine
Um,
energy be allowed to rise.
okay, I'm hearing that there's big energy waves coming in within the next month.
Yes, absolutely. But think about the planet Earth. How do we refer to planet Earth? And Mother Nature. What do we need to fix? What's going off kilter? What has the masculine focused energy done? It's taken us away from nature, Mother Nature, respect for Mother Nature. So the feminine has to come back in. Feminine is what gives birth to life, right? It's creativity, it's emotions, it's nurturing. Everyone, whether you're male or female, has a masculine side and a feminine side. And for a long time, even the feminism movement was a movement for women to be able to take on more what was deemed in society male roles, which is not, I don't think that's necessarily the way it was supposed to go, because even that got kind of perverted. And then they shut down their feminine side and just, let's do the action oriented power, success, accomplishment, achievement, blah, blah, blah. And then the children get left behind because nobody's playing the feminine role anymore. Now we're bringing into being like more feminine energy. And from that feminine energy is your intuition, connection to spirit, connection to,
Well,
all
that's just
of
it. And we're not talking about men and women. We're talking about an energy.
an energy.
It's
Absolutely.
there's definitely a difference.
Think that's what offended whomever that took down the video.
Oh, I don't know. I figure it was
Mordecai says
because
masculine energy isn't in nature. I'm not saying it's not in nature. I'm just like, when you look at the way things have been sort of deemed, yes, there's masculine energy in nature, absolutely. But what do we refer to the Mother Earth as? We refer to it as Mother Earth, Father Moon, Mother Earth. We talk about the sun, right? And that's more of a masculine energy, the fiery energy. But it's just energy. This isn't men or women. We have to get away from that break in our consciousness where it's like male, female. No, it's either masculine or it's feminine. It's either emotionally oriented, intuition oriented, or it's physically based and action oriented. Like, that's the thing we're trying to bring into balance. And I think a lot of people get lost in that place. Like, there's nothing wrong with men. I love men. But I also think that men need to feel free to express their emotions, and women want them to. Right. And our little boys need to be allowed to cry and to express themselves, not suppress everything. And I think our little girls need to be taught how to stand up for themselves, and be okay with, hey, you want to drive truck, do whatever you want. You want to swing a hammer, build something or birth something. I mean, it doesn't have to be in a male or female body. And I think that even, and I had a talk on my channel about this, the whole, sort of transgender LGBT movement, why all that's happening. And it is it's just an energetic. We have to stop getting so offended by these labels. Like, really?
labels. I know all about labels.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's all it is. Good. So for me, and Armor Up says it here, balance of the energies. Jesus said we must make the male and female one again. I mean, I think
Absolutely.
that's what's happening now.
Yes. Yes. I think so too. And I think that in order for us to have wholeness, completeness within ourselves, we have to have both of our sides brought together into center, right? The Buddhists call it the middle way, the middle way, not too much masculine, not too much feminine, the middle way where it's equally balanced. You bring yin and yang and you bring it to center where there's an equal interplay and an equal balance. And I think as we play with that, we rise in our own understanding and our own power. Then these things like Mandela Effect, it's no big deal. And then we can do something with it. And that's what we were talking about on that live. Do something with it.
I want to get to that. To you, the Mandela Effect is no big deal. I mean, it's just, you've noticed it, you've turned, color of a car changed. And to you, it's just like, okay, at some point you said to yourself, well, I just shifted into another timeline. I mean, is that where?
Well,
Did
I
that just
meditated about
develop?
it and prayed about it. And my guides are really good about explaining what was happening to me, in simple terms. I like everything really simple, which is why I teach, practical spiritual things. Like, it has to be simple. It has to be practical. I have to be able to apply it to my life. Right. I'm not one of those people that is like foo-foo and way out there, although some people will say, because I believe in my own psychic gifts and what I'm capable of doing and healing and all these other things, that I'm some woo-woo. Okay. But where I come from, my people, the way that my ancestors were, this was the way we lived. There was something wrong with you if you weren't connected to your intuition. There was something wrong with you if you didn't revere the planet, right? There was something wrong with you if you didn't honor the ocean and honor the earth. And so, yeah, like, I don't think it's a big deal, because my understanding of it and just experimentation with it, is this whole thing of, well, if I can consciously put my focus on a different timeline, I can pull information from that timeline, bring it into the now, and affect what's happening to me now. Our power is right here, right now, in the present moment, always the now moment. But can we jump around timelines? Absolutely. If everything's happening right here, right now, and time is not this linear thing that we have constructed and believe it to be for our own man-made purposes, then we should be able to jump around. Just like, when we do things like astral travel, when we do things like remote viewing, when we do all these things, we can believe in certain things like remote viewing's not that far out of people's understanding or even believability. Why? Because the government uses it. So then it's okay. When the authorities tell you that they're doing it, then it's okay. Then you can believe in it, which is ridiculous to me. Because way back, even in the Bible, if you look at the Bible, in all the Old Testament and the New Testament, it talks about that ability to be able to tap in and get higher wisdom. We were always guided. Jesus said, I leave with you my Holy Spirit. This is nothing new. This has been going on for thousands of years. Nothing new.
And for you, it's just jumping timelines, timeline jumping, you say.
Yeah, and it is just a shifting of your conscious focus.
And that's where I was talking about where do we go from here? What's the next step? I mean, I think we're already in the next step regardless, because most of the Mandela Effect people I've come in contact with, basically all they've tried to do is show other people. I felt that I was called, and I answered. Okay. And that's, I'm still talking about it with people. They either get it or they don't.
Right.
So for me, that was one of the steps. But the Mandela Effect was just a stepping stone for me to teach me that physical reality is malleable, and that I can yeah, I just don't know how to use these things. Sure can. I don't know if it worked or not.
It did.
Anyway,
Thank you.
I don't even know what he was saying. I usually look. I'll get I'll get a shill on my chat. I just delete them completely. They're done.
John,
there's other.
I don't know if I'm saying your name right. John or Games. There is a critical difference in jumping timelines and controlling the jumping. Absolutely, there is. And you know what? The more you practice, the better you get at it. You just have to believe you can. I mean, that's the whole part of it. Like if you believe that you can do something, then you don't have those emotional blockages that don't allow you to do it. That if you just play with it, like the Bible says, right? Like enter the kingdom of heaven by that, like that of a child. It's play. So if you play with it, just play with it. Pick a timeline, jump there. Pick a timeline and imagine it. It's no different. Like, yeah. And eventually you'll get surprised at your experimentations coming back more and more on cue. Take notes when you come out of it too. So okay, what was around? What did I notice? Right.
Sounds like faith. That's what Armor Up just said.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's, yeah, I've always had a problem with faith because I'm like, well, I don't understand how I get, but that's what that is. It's just a belief. It's a knowing. It's the same thing as faith. I mean,
and if you can do, any of these things we do, once you get beyond fear, that's where you enter that field of infinite possibilities. Fear is what blocks us and holds us down in the lower dimensional places. We were talking about dimensions in that other live stream, but fear is a lower energy vibration. Fear is what keeps us in physical life from enjoying our relationships, from enjoying good health, from having miraculous healing occur in our lives, right? When we go above fear and we put our focus on faith and we actually believe that anything can happen at any given moment and nothing is being held back from us, then you can play with timeline jumping. You can play with the Mandela effect to the point where you can do the flip-flop on purpose. It's not just happening to you. Now you're an active participant in these things. And it's fun.
I will say that I noticed when I started reporting on the Mandela effect, all of my experiences subsided. Now, I don't know if that was a coincidence. I don't believe in that, because I was having experiences all the way up through in Mississippi, and when I started doing videos, and I left Mississippi, and I've still had some things happen, but nothing as great as what I wrote in the book. Nothing as great as stars coming at me, orbs telling me not to eat meat, conversations didn't take place, characters coming out of the TV asking me what I'm waiting for. Nothing that grandiose. A couple of stars would give me a wink here and there, and
How
it's
much time are you
obvious.
dedicating to meditation and really like prayer
Not
and,
enough.
and consciously connecting to your own guides? I mean, because when you give, this is what I tell my people that I train up in their intuitive gifts, right? When you want to connect to spirit, whether that's your guides, the Holy Spirit, the masters, Buddha, Jesus, it doesn't matter, whoever you want to connect with. The only way you're going to be able to make that connection is to create relationship. And it's no different than our human relationship. You have to give it time. You have to spend time there. You have to,
That makes
like
sense.
every day, let me check in. Every day, let me set aside some time to make this relationship and to communicate and to listen. It's not like some magical miraculous thing. It really is. You will be guided when you make time to hear what the guidance is, and when you're committed and dedicated daily to that practice. And it takes work and it takes time.
Yeah, I guess I have slowed down quite a bit on that. I still do, probably not enough. I guess I started getting back into meditating strongly since you gave me those exercises, because that's part of what I'm doing.
Good.
Uh, yeah, first thing in the morning, if I remember, or sometimes I need somebody to start poking at me for me to remember, to do those. Um,
Those
Excellent
things
stuff.
come in waves, though, like whether it's a Mandela effect, a series of Mandela effects that are happening that finally get your attention, and you're like, wow, there's so much more going on than I think I even have been paying attention to.
I,
So they come in waves where you'll have a wave of all of these things happen, and you're like, wow, this is exciting. Oh my God, I'm going to go explore this. And you find a community, and people are calling it the Mandela effect. And you're like, that's really cool. I'm going to document it. And then it just sort of plateaus. And then comes another wave and more understanding, right? Now we're not just talking Mandela effect. Wait a minute. Can I control it? Can I do something with it? Can I affect my life in this timeline, in this reality? Okay. So then you have all of these other experiences. When people start to learn how to like consciously manifest, the same thing happens. They'll manifest a bunch of stuff and they're like, oh my God, this is miraculous. Life is magical. And then they plateau and nothing happens, right? And they either give up on their manifestation or becoming intentional and all of those things, or they continue. And then another round of energy happens, a burst, and then you have all these other things. And then you learn something else. It's no different. I mean, we have periods where we expand and then we settle into it and integrate. And then we expand and we settle into it and integrate. And we just keep going up. That's what ascension, that people call ascension. That's what's happening. Does that make
so, and
sense?
yeah, it does. It's just like working out. You get
Yes.
to a point where it just seems like nothing's happening.
Right. Right.
I've noticed that.
Or we get sucked into the dramas of life, of third dimensional living. We get sucked into, the paycheck's not big enough. The bills have to be paid. The relationship didn't pan out. We get sucked down into focusing on what's not working, and no longer are we focused on the expanded parts of ourselves.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's not good.
Makes sense?
Very much, very much. Um, so, what is the next step? I mean, if it's just noticing where you're shifting into a timeline, the
Don't
only
you
thing
think
I
that
could see
there's
the
a
man.
reason? Like there's a reason if things are shifting at a pivotal moment or non-pivot, what you don't even realize something's going on, and all of a sudden it's shifted. Your memory of an event shifted, or the actual things around you have shifted, right? You can call it a Mandela effect. You can call it whatever you want. I don't really care what it's called. But why is it happening, and why in this moment? So here we are at this intersection of two different timelines. What can I pull from this one and bring back to this one that will affect something in a far greater way? That's what we want to use it for. And I think we can do that with so many things.
I've been using it. I've been testing it for over a year now, and I notice when I don't get excited that I accomplished something, or let me put it another way. Let's see. When I set out to create and it's successful, if I don't get involved in the excitement of "Yay, I did it," um, it continues on. I
Because the
start
ego's
going, yeah.
not involved. The
Oh,
minute the ego gets
okay.
involved, it shuts it down.
Yeah,
When the
because
ego
it's
gets involved and you're like, whoa, wow, look at me. Look
look
what
at
I can
me,
do.
and it's not you.
Yeah.
It's I get that. It's maybe it's something working through you. Maybe it's a collective thing. I don't know.
Ego's very third dimensional. Ego's
Okay.
very much third dimensional, so when the ego comes in, it does tend to unplug us from the higher wisdom and the higher states of being and these other dimensions, right? Like anytime you're in ego and you're trying to pat yourself on the back for anything, you unplug from it. So yeah, those things aren't going to happen as consistently or as rapidly as they were before. You start to get into that place where it's just sheer excitement for the excitement of, oh my God, the curiosity wakes up and we live in this divine, miraculous universe. What else is possible? It will keep happening.
Awesome. Armor up. I got to tell you, how many times have I said that to you? Same teachings, I believe, in just different terms. It's always a different terminology with me and him. Good friend of mine. I wanted to talk to this guy here, Yonner Games, Johnner Games. Um, the counterpart thing. I have a problem with that because I don't think you're conscious in any of your other
I don't know if that's true.
avatars. You do think you are?
I don't know that that's true. And I actually agree with what he's saying. I absolutely agree with what he's saying.
Okay,
Um, because
good. See, we don't have to agree. I know I'm probably wrong.
well, I mean, that becomes this whole other teaching of dimensions too, and us as multidimensional beings, right? I talked about this on my live the other day when I was talking about the time construct. And maybe I went deeper. I think I went deeper into it in my charm life class. But there's that thing of you have, your what people call your higher self, which I tend to call your oversoul, right? And then it kind of branches off like a tree, and you have one self living in one timeline and another self living in another timeline, and it could go on infinity,
Are
right?
they all conscious?
I believe that they are. I believe
Because
that
I
they
would,
are. I've had
so
an
it's actually
experience.
you. Nobody else can experience that but you, right?
Right. Well, and I've had an experience where I was able to consciously call myself to, I don't know what you would call it, but I went into a meditation, and I wanted a certain sort of strength that I didn't feel like I was holding in this life. I was like, I don't have the
Okay.
experience of that in this life, but I know some other aspect of me in some timeline has that experience. So I just want to go to that timeline and observe it, and I want to feel it, and then I want to bring it back with me. And so I was able to do that, like a whole other, and I don't know that her
So
name
you,
was Bernadette, right? I
but you
don't know.
brought that information in from the other Bernadette.
And the
But
essence of it, because I fully, like, what felt like I was looking from behind her eyes. And
right.
yeah.
See, I feel like they're there. I think all those other yous are there,
Hmm.
doing their thing. Because when I shifted and I started having memories that I know of stuff that did not take place, yet I have these memories.
Hmm.
And my thought is, okay, in a timeline, that's happening. Or I just created it where it just started. That's where the timeline just started because I created it. Or it's been going on the whole time. And this is what would have happened if things went this way and I shifted there.
Hmm.
But at some point, if they're conscious, at some point in my entire existence, I will experience every one of me's, all infinite of them, or not. I mean,
Well, and
that's why
that's
my
that
thought
whole
is
thing
we're
of,
just conscious here. Yet I do think we can experience more than one consciousness at the same time. I'm just not there yet. We're going back and forth in time. Not there
so
yet.
what is spirit? What do we do with spirituality? Why are we even on this path of spiritual growth and spiritual enlightenment and spiritual awakening? It's to connect to our higher selves, right? Our higher self, which I call the oversoul. It's the bigger part of me connected to divine infinite intelligence, source energy, God, that over the top of all of my many infinite, however many lives there are going on at the same moment, right? So if I just go there, connect to higher self, already knows which version of me is living that thing that I want to bring back with me here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
get that. I
you
just
go
don't.
up first, connect to higher self, and then that information clearly comes through. You can jump there, you can experience. Where it stops and where most people get stopped in it is that then their mental their minds kick in, the ego kicks in, the doubt kicks in. Oh, this isn't real. The minute you start questioning its validity, the minute you start questioning it's real, the minute you disconnect and you're right back and you're like, it didn't work.
Uh, I've had many failures
And me
from that
too. I mean, I'm
and
not,
getting ego involved.
yeah, I'm not a pro. I think until the day we die, we are still learning and growing, and even beyond that. Because someone asked in the last live stream, like, when we grow, when we expand here, do our guides? Yes, the entire universe expands. Every time we expand, the universe expands. We've been taught that. People don't really believe it, though, right? They don't believe it.
Well, it's a fact. If you make yourself better, you're making the world better. You're making the universe better.
Well, but people
Same thing.
say, thoughts become things. Well, if thoughts become things, and we know that that's true, and thoughts create realities, even realities we can't necessarily see, that it's taking place in a whole other dimension, but it has created its own reality, don't you then think that it's possible for us to tap into that? Shift here, shift there, shift all the way across the board. I always think of it like dominoes. Like the minute I make a major shift and a major awakening and become like a better version of me, that it's affecting every one of me. And I'm like, oh, thank God.
Oh, I understand. Okay. It's
Right.
not just affecting what's around you physically, it's affecting the other yous and other timelines.
Right. Because it's all connected to the one
I
consciousness
see.
and the higher self, which is connected to divine consciousness. Absolutely. Of course, it would make sense then. It is affecting everything. We
They don't
talk
have,
on levels of quantum, like the quantum consciousness, the quantum physics, quantum jumping, we're talking like we gave it the word quantum because, just multiple wasn't enough. We had to get into the place of infinite. And when we talk about infinite, no beginning, no end. People that say they believe in God, but they're super rooted in their religion, have a hard time with the no beginning and no end. If that's the case, truly, you should be able to play with it. Right? Have you ever stood before a mirror and then you have a mirror behind you and you have the multiple, it goes on forever. Like,
sure.
right? At my old house in Colorado, I purposely put a mirror behind my vanity mirror in my bathroom. And every now and then I would just stand there and watch and see if I could count from front to back, like how many reflections. It just keeps going. And that's kind of like, I think for an understanding in how reality really is, that's kind of what it's like. It just keeps going. There's no stop to it.
But do you really think that they're all conscious
I
like we
do.
are here right now?
I do.
I
Yeah.
mean, is it you? It's not somebody else in your body. Or do you
I
think
think it's
another
I
entity
think we
that's
get really,
playing your
really
part?
overwhelmed with it because we like to think time as linear, like, 1900, 2000, linear, where we have this hard time understanding it's all happening at the same time, all at the same time. And it can happen all at the same time, 100 years ago, happening right now.
So
But
will you
for the
eventually?
sake of our sanity, we've constructed this time thing because our minds can't wrap it.
But will you eventually have the memories of every one of your lives? I mean, do
I
you think
do
you'll actually
believe
experience all of those
I
consciousnesses?
I think I actually do believe at some point when we merge with our higher self or our oversoul, there is the understanding and the full recognition of all of our lifetimes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I still
Otherwise, how do
tend to
we do it
think
when
that
we start to play with Akashic record readings and all these other things that people are now believing that, yeah, okay. I mean, look at these kids that are born like in India where it's widely accepted reincarnation, documented, like how they picked the Dalai Lama for the last
Mhm.
how many years,
Right.
right? Kids got to come in, remember certain things, know these certain, hidden objects, have memory of certain people, right? So here, new body, same consciousness, remembers, brings it through. How's that happen? And if we focus too much on the how, that's where we get lost. It's infinite.
Yeah. Do we need to know how?
I
Do
don't
we
think
need to
so.
know why the Mandela effect is happening?
I don't. I think it's a good practice to know what you can do with it. Like it's exciting that it's happening. I mean,
Um,
we can sit here and ponder why is trees green and their trunks brown? What
mhm.
good is it to get stuck on that question? What can we do with it? What's it for? How can it benefit my life and expand me and connect me and make me more of a loving person, more of a connected person, have more of a meaningful life? If we can get there, all of this stuff becomes super fun, and then it has a usefulness. If we're just going to get lost in la la land and tune out what our purpose is here, which is to expand, is to grow, is to become more conscious, then it's
I
just
love when you
play.
say that. Let's make it fun. You're
Make it
always
fun.
like,
It's
let
just,
make it fun. This is a fun thing. I mean, it's like, I mean, I know Cheez-Its had the Z on the end or the S on the end. I mean, I know it did. Let's make that fun. What was the point of that?
yeah.
You
I'm looking
know?
at some of these comments.
Oh, yeah, go ahead and read them. Anybody?
Half trolling, half cynical, trying to shift some zeros. You and me both. How does death of you in another timeline affect you here?
Ah,
That's a good question. I think
I
that
I have my theories
just
on that.
from doing a lot of readings, and the one thing that I've come to realize, especially when I've had the honor of channeling, like mediumship, doing that sort of thing and bringing someone through that's crossed over. Like, I'll share with you one of my first kind of couldn't run from it was when my grandfather came to me after he died to kind of referee and be the announcer at his own funeral, because I didn't go. And I was in my 20s. And my grandfather, I knew him to be pretty abusive, pretty angry guy. Like, him and my grandmother screamed at each other all the time. I never knew him to have a sense of humor. And she was very religious and he was not, but he went along with whatever grandma did just to keep the peace. And when he died and he came through to me, first of all, I was shocked because I was like, what are you doing here? What do you want? And he was joking around with me, telling me all kinds of things and apologizing for the way my mother acted towards me. And I'm really sorry. She's the milkman's kid. I'm like, that's not even nice. Why are you saying these things? And he was like joking. Well, I didn't know he was a humorous person. I asked my aunt later and I said, did Grandpa have a sense of humor? Because I've never seen that side of him. And she said, oh, yeah. When he was younger, he was funny, really funny. So I think, even after we cross over, there is an understanding. One of the things he came through is so funny. He said to me, he said, your grandma was right. Don't tell her. Right. Because my grandma's still alive. And I was like, right about what? He said, there's a God. I was like, cool. And he said he was in school. And I said, what are you in school for? And he said he was reviewing a lot of the things that he did not understand and comprehend in this life and the choices he made. So does it affect us? I think that it can. I certainly think at some level, even though the man I knew as my grandfather in this life had passed on, there was versions of him that was still alive and living in different timelines. And is it
Yeah,
affecting him? I would think so.
and this is now along the same lines. This is what I've always said. Because of the impalement, which I'm taking it you haven't read the book yet.
No.
Yeah, I have a chapter in it. That's when everything really started for me, the impalement. Um, I'm sure this thing was trying to get out my back, and that's when I realized it penetrated me. The light, it was dark. Pushed myself off this thing, flicked on the light. The thing I impaled myself was behind another table. The one I said I should put it behind before someone gets hurt and didn't. Um, but it was back there. Now, what I've said happened, and I've noticed this with my family, right after that incident, I started to notice uh, changes, more Mandela effects, obvious ones. Before, I was kind of blowing it off. I was all into, oh my God, the earth is flat. Are you kidding me? And I was like, that changed my perception of reality because I realized I didn't know if it was round, flat, ball, triangle, whatever. But I'd go to the Mandela effect and I kind of kept brushing it off until the impalement right around that time. And I started to notice more things that were just obvious to me. And what I've said is the me in the timeline I impaled myself in, I died in that timeline. Because when I was speaking to my family shortly after that impalement in this timeline, they were talking to me. An ex girlfriend was talking to me that I probably shouldn't have been talking to at all. She was talking to me like it was a eulogy. It was nice knowing you then. It was so nice getting to know you now. And my sister said, you might have had a heart attack. thought, wow, it's possible. When the stars came at me, I was explaining her that, and she said, "You might have had a heart attack." I said, "Well, I could have. I could have shifted into a timeline where that's the way the stars always act." Um, and I shifted back because my phone wasn't in my pocket when the stars were coming at me, and it miraculously showed up when the stars stopped. When I ran away and came back, like, anyway, that's in the book. You can read that later. But I always said, in that other timeline, I've died. My mother's changed, my sister has changed, my brother has changed the most. Now, I've speculated since the Mandela Effect that my brother passed on in my family, and for whatever reason, I didn't need to experience that because nobody ever spoke with him. He was just off somewhere else all the time. I talked to him once a year. We'd fight for 5 minutes, and that was it. That went on for 10 years. And, when I wrote that in the book, now every time he wants to talk to me now all the time, and he's talking to me about love and vegan and oh my God, do you know what's in a milkshake? I mean, this is not my brother. Okay. He needed the meat as red as he needed the meat right off the cow. That's how he wanted to eat it. Now he's all vegan and he thinks I'm so gross. I mean, I'm trying. I had orbs come down, tell me not to eat meat. I'm still trying after 3 years. Okay. It's like I've cut back, but I'm pretty sure they didn't mean eat meat. I think they meant stay out of McDonald's. Oh, we're getting copyright strike for that. I still like their fries.
I don't know. I think, I definitely think that there's timelines that get created from every event. There's a different reality that plays out into a different dimension or a different plane or whatever. I don't know, because I talked about it on my radio show years ago, and you were listening to that way back then. If you remember the incident when I was driving my car and suddenly a vision took over my windshield of me getting hit by a truck that like rolled over and landed on top of my car. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Okay, so, and this is a real event. I mean, this like really, really happened. And I was by myself. I was driving to the grocery store from Ignacio to Durango, and on a Sunday afternoon, no big deal. And all of a sudden, my entire windshield, what appeared to be my entire windshield, even though I'm driving, this whole scene plays out, and it happened in a matter of, I don't know how long it took, a couple minutes maybe. The whole thing seems super real, but I'm watching, and in this vision, for lack of a better way to explain it, and I was feeling it in my body as I was driving, this truck was coming at me from the opposite side. It was a 2-lane road, Highway 172. It was coming at me, and all of a sudden something happened. He veered, his truck rolled, and his truck landed on top of my car. And then the next scene, I'm in the hospital above my body in the emergency room. And here's my family, my 2 daughters, my father. The doctor's saying, she's pretty much gone. You got to pull the plug. Like there's no brain activity. And I'm hovering above in the room. Right.
Wow.
And then it stops. The windshield clears and I'm shaking. And I'm like, what in the hell was that? Like, oh my God. And I slow my car down from, I think I was going 65. I slowed down to about 50. No joke. Within seconds, this same truck that appeared in my vision just moments before, there's a guy that was going to flip his car around on the side of the road. So he was kind of sticking out a little. I don't know what this Dodge did, but the Dodge must have gone too far over and then all of a sudden yanked his steering wheel, right?
Mm-hmm.
He yanked it, pulled into my lane, was literally right in front of me, then yanked his car back, flipped it, and it rolled. And like I'm watching in my rearview mirror as he came that close from hitting the back of my car. Had I been a little bit faster with my speed, he would have probably rolled right on top of my car.
And that vision would have came true.
And then I made an idiot of myself because normally I can be pretty cool about visions and stuff and not tell police, but I was shaken and the police were like, what happened? I'm like, oh my God, I played out before it even happened. They must have thought I was crazy. I didn't tell them I'm a psychic, but like, seriously, had I been just a few moments or a few miles faster, that truck would have been on top of my car.
Now, is it possible that actually happened and your consciousness?
Probably. It felt like I had to pull to the side of the road and sit there for a good hour just to I was shaking. It all like sitting in that place where I'm hovering above my own body in a hospital room, plugged in machines, and I can hear the machines and I can hear my kids talking. At that moment, when I slowed down, I said to Spirit, I'm not ready to go. Like, I can't leave my family like this. And then slowed the car down, or the car slowed down. I don't even remember, but I avoided the accident. And then I was freaked because I was just like, I couldn't move. I sat there until I stopped shaking.
And that brings me up to, your family was there and everything. And I would say that you died in that timeline for them so that they can experience what they need to experience without you. Nobody
And
died.
different versions of them.
Yeah,
Different
I'm
versions of them.
sure. Oh,
Sure.
okay. So, but they're not the same,
Not the
or they
same.
are the same.
It's hard to say. See,
See,
there's
I'm
that thing
going
of
infinite.
infinite. We start
People
to
are like,
turn.
how can you do that? How
Yeah.
can you say that's not your daughter? That's not your mother. How can you do that? I said, well, what am I going to do? Their consciousness is off in some other timeline doing their thing. I can't stop that.
I actually called them. I called them and my daughter was freaked out. She was like, I don't want to hear this. And she's like, just sit there. Don't drive your car. Just sit there. Wait till they clear the accident. Then I got home and I was like, I love you guys.
That's awesome. We're getting a lot of chat in the chat room about food. And what should they eat meat? Should they not eat?
It's a personal choice. I don't tell anyone what to eat, honestly. I honestly don't. I mean, I eat meat. I'd lie if I said I didn't. I do have periods where I go sort of vegan, you know, where I don't eat meat, I don't eat pasta, I don't eat any bread, all I will eat is fruits and vegetables and nuts, things like that.
And you say a period of time, is that monthly? Because I don't,
I do it
around the
whenever
full
I feel
moon.
led.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like right before the full moon, I always get the urge that I need sugar and meat and proteins, and that's when I don't know what it was. It was something I read, something I watched, something I saw that kind of showed me, look, eating meat right before the full moon is not a good idea.
It's hard on your digestion for sure.
Sexual release of energy is not a good idea around the full moon. I've heard that.
There's a lots of stuff. Yeah. Everybody has a different, so I don't tell anyone. I think you have to honestly, like each one of us have a different constitution, right? There's one thing, like when Bella was born, I had a Chinese doctor, like Oriental medicine. And she was telling me about this study they did with kids in China. And she said instead of telling the kids what to eat, they just let the kids choose. Right. So for a long time, when Bella's old enough to eat solid food, we just let her choose. And she said, the study worked out. And I proved this with her. In a one day, she would eat all carbs. And then the next day, she wouldn't want any carbs. All she'd want is vegetables. And then the next day, all she'd want is some sort of meat or cheese or something protein, and then the next day. But by the end of a week stretched out, she had a really balanced diet. This kid has a super, super fast metabolism. And to this day still does. She's not one to get sick very often either. She has a really good immune system.
Interesting.
But it's still the same thing now. Like, I don't tell her, she's 16, going to be 17. I don't tell her what to eat. She chooses her own food. There are times where she'll eat a lot of carbs or she'll have like a sweet thing. And then all of a sudden she's like, Mom, can we go get salad stuff? You know what I mean?
Dessert first.
It's that thing of be connected to your body. Your body will tell you what you need. Sometimes we want carbs. Sometimes we want soups and heavier bean kind of foods. Sometimes we want protein. Lately, a lot of people have been told to come kind of detox off of a lot of meat, because a lot of the meat too isn't the same as it was when we were young. Has hormones in it. Has a lot of crap in it.
Yeah, they're messing with it.
Yeah.
So it is a personal choice. It's a personal thing. Listen to your body. I mean, for me, I wasn't listening to my body, and the orbs told me, get away from the meat. They actually, listen, they gave me like 2 or 3 paragraphs of information that I just did not get. It was, number 1 was don't eat meat. Number 2 was don't eat meat. Number 3 was don't release sexual energy around the full moon. Number 4 was no gossiping. Number 5 was think properly. Number 6, but they had to.
You didn't get it. Those are all easy ones.
There are what?
Those are easy ones.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I got 3 paragraphs, and they had to break it down to pinpoints, because I'm like, "I'm not getting that." As I had a beer and a cigarette in the hand, and I kept going, "Cigarette? Like, we don't care. We don't alcohol, you don't the paragraph I got there was, "You don't drink enough for us to worry about it." It's and at the time, I didn't. Now I'm a bartender, drinking a bit more, um, than
I
I
mean, I
was
go
then.
through
I mean, then
periods where
was
I won't have any alcohol, but
I'm
I
sorry?
never go through a period where I have no coffee, and people are like, "Oh, you shouldn't drink coffee," and I'm like,
Coffee.
"Whatever, coffee helps my digestion, thank you very much." Even when I battled colon cancer, I didn't come off of coffee, and thank God for my family because they would not have been happy with the person that I would have become without my coffee.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I don't know if you wanna get into that, but you had cancer a couple of times and
A few times, yes,
cured it. You got rid of it yourself
naturally. Yes.
from
I'm
focus.
not one for and I'm not gonna say that I don't agree with Western medicine fully, like, I go to the doctor when I need to go to the doctor. When I break something, like, I went to India and I had 3 discs replaced in my neck, needed a doctor, not something that I could cure on my own. I blew out 3 discs at one time, and don't have insurance, so I flew to India, and they did this really cool surgery where they replaced my disc before it was legal here in the US. This was back in 2010.
Wow.
But I've had leukemia, and the last one was 2015. I had a colon tumor that I had let go for a very long time until it got to the point where my liver shut down and I couldn't eat anymore. And I had lost a lot of weight. And my doctor finally said, "You need to do something. Like, this isn't good. And we can't remove it." And it started endometriosis, and I won't get into the whole thing, but it breached my abdominal wall and they couldn't surgically remove it. So the option was radiation chemo, and I'm not okay with any of that stuff. So I went on the hunt and I prayed my butt off and was introduced to a beautiful Navajo family, um, and started doing some ceremonies with them and herbs with them and natural medicine with them. And then I did ozone treatments. I did several things layered together. I used CBD and CBN patches and oils and a bunch of supplements on top of having my QXCI machine. So I used that as well. And then I was going in for like 2, 3 times a week having ozone treatments done. And yeah, it's gone.
It's completely gone. There's no
In
sign
3
of it?
years. No.
Oh, congratulations. And
Yeah.
and all I would see and now I would just turn that as well. You focused and shifted.
Oh, it took a lot of positive, but I'm gonna tell you, I didn't always hold that. I mean,
Okay.
and I don't get into fear over that stuff either. There's a natural grieving process when you're sick like that too, right? And I created it on my own. There were times when I asked spirit to take me out. I've been like, "Pray God, I don't want to be here. It's an ugly world. It's a mean, cold, harsh world. I don't want to be here. Take me out." And you keep with that line of thinking and get super depressed with what you're living. Eventually, it creates something in the body. Well, it did. And then I let it go because I wasn't wanting to deal with it. But I finally had to deal with it. And I did something, I didn't tell my family at first. I took them all on vacation. And then we come home and I said, "I got a problem. I'm going to be treating it for a while. So I don't know how well I'm going to feel." And I didn't tell anyone that I work with. You could look back at my old videos from 2015 and you can see it. My energy level was low, but I hid it from anyone outside of our family, and the people that were helping me treat it. And it took several months, but yeah, it's gone.
So you created that. You created it and created it away. I mean,
Yeah, but there were moments. I mean, I'll tell you right now, there were moments when I was lying on the bathroom floor and I did not think I was going to come out of that one alive. I made videos for my children that I actually
mhm.
put on YouTube. One video of my daughter singing, one from a song I had wrote and put up pictures for my other daughter and, wrote them letters. And I was okay. If I don't make it out, I don't make it out. And I did. So, and I was lucky because I was introduced to some Navajos that if it hadn't been for them and their ceremonies and their medicine, I probably wouldn't have had it. I wouldn't be here. Yeah. I
See?
just actually went back last month to have my thank you ceremony around the fireplace
Oh,
with them.
nice.
Celebrated 3 years. Yeah. Am I missing something in
I
chat?
don't know. I don't understand these people anyway.
Some
Some
of
of
it.
them, but glad to have a bunch. Glad to have a bunch of people on. I'm glad we did this again. Did we
Yeah,
miss
would you
anything?
download it immediately, please, so that
I'm going
doesn't
to
happen
download
again?
immediately. I'm going to make copies of this and
Send it
keep it.
into my send it to me into Dropbox, maybe.
I think
Um,
I can do that. I don't really understand Dropbox, but I have it.
okay. Well, if you create a link and share the link, then I can get into there and download it to my Dropbox too, and then we'll both have a copy.
Okay. Okay.
So
Was there anything else we talked about during that
we talked
first
about a
one?
lot during that.
Oh,
We talked about the dimensions and stuff like that too.
and I like that. I like us going into the different third, fourth, fifth dimensions,
I
different
gotta take this real
explanations.
quick.
Go ahead, go. I'll talk to thanks, Suso. LOL. Yeah, well, I'm not quite leaving yet. I might be. Who knows? Yeah. I guess one of the things I've been wanting to talk about is Mandela Effect. It's not that big a deal. Go ahead. What you got, Bern?
Oh, nothing. It's funny. It was my mortgage company because I'm on an automated call thing. Even though my mortgage closed yesterday, my house sold yesterday. I'm like, you guys still have me on your system.
Yay.
Yay. So,
Good for you.
yeah.
All these
So,
good
what
things
is this
happening to
about the
you, right?
Mandela effect? What?
Um, yeah, what was I saying? Yesterday
Normal.
we were
No big
talking
deal.
about the different dimensions. Um, is the Mandela effect in fifth dimension? Does that make sense? Does that even
Don't
make
you think
sense?
like all of it exists in all time and space if time and space is just a construct that we made up? Is that possible?
I guess it's all possible. I mean, I'm starting to think that the Mandela effect is really just showing us that physical reality is malleable, and that you can create and you can shift your
And that there's an
consciousness.
infinite field of possibility and there's infinite dimensions and there's infinite intelligence that we call God. You know, no matter what your religion is, there's an infinite intelligence that we all plug into, that we all pray to, that we all meditate and try to get answers from. It's one infinite intelligence we all came from. And I don't think, I mean, I think when we box all of it in is when we get into this place where things become very limited. And I think when our egos come in and go, well, it's too big of a concept for you to understand, or even when science comes in and goes, well, we haven't proven that, so it must not be real, you lose the magic of it. As children, we believe everything's possible. We lose
Yeah,
that, right? And then we get it back right before we die. If we get Alzheimer's or dementia, especially, we get this thing where we open up into all these other dimensions being open. People that are ready to die and they have Alzheimer's and they don't recognize the people around them. Don't you think they're just living the Mandela effect?
definitely. I think so. I think I'm sure plenty of people. What do they call it? Um, well, I guess schizophrenia,
No, with Alzheimer's, when people are
Alzheimer's. That's the one I was
yeah.
looking for. And you just said that. Yeah, they can't remember. So that used to be that way. Or that's the Mandela effect.
Once in a while, they'll snap back and they'll recognize you because they're tuned into this consciousness and this time and space. Their physical bodies are here. Their consciousness is someplace else. That's why I'm telling you, it's not impossible to be able to focus your consciousness someplace else. You know, because they're having talks with people who have crossed over. They're going back to timelines where they were young and they were able to walk and their spouse was alive, and they're having conversations as if it's happening right now so they can't see who's in the room, right? And then once in a while they'll snap back and they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember you. You're my grandchild or you're my daughter." And then they pitch out again into some other reality, and that's where they are.
It just sounds to me like they can't control where they're shifting to.
Or
They're
maybe
just
they are
shifting all
controlling it
over.
and they're just happier there, wouldn't you be? Who wants to be in, have your focusness tuned into a hospital room? Way more
Yeah,
fun to go talk to the people that have crossed over when you can see them and live like you're 13 again or 25 again, right?
agreed.
So why
Agreed.
is
Yeah.
that? Why do we look at that possibility and go, yeah, I can believe that, but we think here, right? In this age or whatever, we can't do it. Children do it. Old people do it. It's the in between ages where we get really locked into third dimensional reality, and we can't do it because we think it's not possible.
We can shift ourselves to look at the world as through the eyes of a child,
Well, you
right?
think about
So,
children though, right? Like this is something that one of my guides was saying something about. You can go, don't worry about it. And as children, the veil hasn't fully dropped, so they have access to all of that, right? As old people, we're already making our way out. The veil is thinning, right? So it's not, the older you get, the closer to sort of checking out on this planet, the veil's thinner. And it's focusedness is already not on living some future attachment in this reality. You're already planning on what you're doing, next. So your focus and your consciousness can travel. But it's the here and now where we are very focused on what happens tomorrow, what happens with this relationship, and we're just very attached to third dimensional living.
yeah, that's a major program for me, or was. And I guess that's what
Absolutely.
happened when I had some of those experiences. That veil was torn down. That those programs were wiped out. But I slowly got back into those programs, going back to the ball, as I like to say. I did it for about 2 weeks. I was like, no, I was happier the other way. Although I was searching for those things, I was happier watching baseball and football and going to games and watching concerts and stuff. So let me go back to the ball. Well, I was never so depressed in my life for those 2 weeks. And this was after the orbs, after the impalement, after all, like I've seen changes and noticed things. You know what? The Earth's a
Yeah.
ball flying through space, and I'm okay with that. And I just at the end of that, I went, no, I can't do it. I just got back into flat Earth stuff, checking out some Mandela Effects. Now we're talking in 15, okay, April maybe, I don't know. And all of a sudden, I started to get really excited. I mean, really like, oh yes, yes. And I went, I can't do it. I can't go back there. I'm down the rabbit hole. I can't get out.
Yeah, but I think that if we can keep our childlike wonder, keep our curiosity, stay very humble with the fact that we don't know everything, that there's so much out there. We can't possibly experience or express through this body and this life and this time and space. So there's many aspects of us living in different timelines, whatever. Like if we could just hold that and understand that we live in this miraculous infinite universe, and we are limited only by what our mind says is a limitation. If you take those limits off, you get beyond fear, you get beyond like having everything have to fit into a nice little box. Man, you can experience all kinds of things. And then you have access to intuition. And then you have access to be able to play with timelines, in a conscious way to affect things for the better. I think there's all kinds of things that we can do that way. As long as our intention is positive, why
And you
not?
got to believe. I mean, you get the faith. You got to believe it, right? If you're going to focus on something, I can't even give an example. Something across the street, it's not bothering too many people, but there's something wrong with it. I'm focusing on it. I'm going to shift my consciousness into a timeline where that's not taking place. I
Or you
I
shift
feel
the
like if you
energy
believe
of
it,
it.
what's that?
You shift the energy of it. See, the one thing that I think with a lot of things here on with any of the spirituality or the new age spirituality, one of the problems I have with it, and we talked about this at the other one, is this sort of spirituality of me, right? Like,
Yeah.
and we can't handle when something triggers us. We want it to just go away. We don't want to feel pain. We don't want to be irritated. Something doesn't agree with us. We just want it to disappear. And sure, you could play with that, but there's something in it for you if this thing is triggering you. For me, it's like all of these things that show up, there are no mistakes. If it's irritating you, if it's triggering you, it needs your attention. Transmute it, clear it, turn it back into a place where you can love it, even if it's different than you. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons we have on this planet right now is no matter what color it is, no matter how many different ways it changes, if you can see it as a miracle, you can see it as love, you can see it as possibility or them as possibility and accept it, we can all kind of peacefully coexist instead of being in this weird place of resistance and hate and anger, division. And I think that's the thing that we're all moving to, or at least we
Mhm.
should be, right? Like that's what the purpose is of all of these solar flares, of all of this expansion and
All this
ascension.
stuff going on now.
Yeah, is to get us to the place where we can go beyond our limited perceptions and viewing differences as something that's bad and viewing things as needing to divide them, right? Like it's if it's all from one energy, one creative energy, one infinite energy, difference doesn't make whether it's brown or white or black or blue or who cares?
It's just perception.
It is
It's
just
just
perception
it's
and
just
preference. I mean, it's personal preference, you know? So, we gotta stop arguing. We have to, like, I don't know, celebrate the fact that we all think differently, feel differently, experience differently, and that's a beautiful thing.
yeah, and I do believe that the duality is part of being physical. I mean, I don't say what is it,
With
duality.
duality, you can't have free will choice. If there wasn't duality, you would have no free will to
Right.
experience or express one way or another. So, I mean, that duality is a gift in itself. It's just
But
we don't like to feel bad. But what we don't seem to remember is if you didn't ever feel bad, you really wouldn't appreciate or know good, right?
right. All right.
Yeah.
To get to back to the death thing. And I keep saying, well, I didn't die. I impaled myself and shifted into another timeline. I had two car accidents where everybody behind me died. I just shifted into another timeline where I didn't die, or God pushed me through and shifted me, or whatever. If that's close to true or close to anything, when would it end? That's the only glitch I have in that theory. At 100, everybody just goes back to heaven. I mean, at what point?
I mean, everything in third dimensional reality has its own life cycle, right? We all have our own life cycle depending on what we put in our bodies and, how well we take care of ourselves, what we think, how we feel. We all have our own life cycle. Trees have their own life cycle. Animals have their own life cycle. There's a season for everything. But I think at some level, we all choose when we're not going to be here. We all have that choice. It may not be a conscious choice, but I do believe that from a higher perspective, we all choose when we leave. I
Okay.
don't want to be here. I mean, I have
Yes,
people
you
who are like,
do.
"Oh, I want to live forever," and it's like, I don't want to be here past like 87. If my body's working great, maybe. But I
My
like,
number's 152.
no, these people that are like, "I want to live forever," and I'm like, "Wow, no, I'd really rather take off into the infinite and explore all of that." But I mean, yeah, make room for some other me to come in some other life form. I don't know, but
There you go.
I don't I death doesn't scare me
No.
at all because I
Public
have
speaking and death, right? They're the two biggest fears people have.
death. Yeah, I guess. I mean, death is not, I don't know. I think because of my experiences too, I do believe that we can communicate with those who've crossed over because I've done it on numerous occasions and it's not a scary thing and it's not an evil thing and they're not here to interrupt anything, you know? So, yeah.
There, there- there are negative forces out there, though. You have.
I do believe there are from my own experiences,
Okay.
absolutely. And I think that it's a shame that um and not surprising that a lot of teachers will say, "Oh no, negative and evil is it doesn't exist and you don't need to worry about that." And those are religious from way back in recorded history, there was always good and evil sort of represented. And yes, I do believe that there are negative spirits out there.
Uh, and don't turn your back on the negative things out there. You got me onto that. Um,
Embrace it. If it's something that triggers you or something that makes you sad or something that makes you angry, there has to be a way to turn that thing into a place of appreciation and love. And really, once you can do that, you look at it and you no longer in this place of judgment. And then there's no need for forgiveness. We spend so much time in spiritual circles talking about, oh, you need to forgive. Well, if you didn't judge to begin with, there's be nothing to forgive.
agreed.
Get out of judgment. Then you don't have to waste your time asking for forgiveness or forgiving other people. I mean, really, it's all our own ego judgments, and we have such a limited perspective. And I'm not saying I'm so great and wise and wonderful, but it's a humbling experience every day to wake up and realize, shit, I have a lot of judgments and I have a lot of opinions and I have a lot of things that I would
Yeah,
like to be better at. And there's so much in life that still knocks me down and I don't want to be there. I want to be better every day. I want to be better. I think if we
excellent.
strive for that, then we lived a life of meaning.
Well, Bert, I think we hit every topic
Everything.
we talked about.
Awesome.
Like, yep. Plus some things added. I think this was probably a better one. The other one was great. This one's even better.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to find out how many of my friends download my stuff as soon as I put it on. Maybe it is out there
I'm
somewhere.
still going to do my live stream because I've been telling them for 2 days that I wanted to talk to them about staggered sleep. And I think I'm going to do that live on Facebook and then just upload it to YouTube.
What are you going to teach them?
Why to stagger your sleep? There's some power in it. So you should come.
Staggering sleep, because right now I'm sleeping 3 hours, up for 5, 3 hours, up for 5, 3. That's what's going on.
So
That's
you're
what you're
already
saying.
doing
That's
it
good.
naturally.
I don't want to.
No,
I don't
there's a
want.
reason for it though. There
Are
is
you
a reason.
kidding me?
No, there's a reason for it.
This
You're
has
doing
been
it
going on.
unconsciously. Like I did it, some 20 years ago consciously because I was told to do it. And there's a reason behind it.
I'm
So
not
that
doing this consciously. You're telling me spirit is getting me to do this?
or
My cat
something.
is waking me up after 3 hours to get me up
Come
because
watch the live stream or watch the replay on
I'm
YouTube,
going to have to. I'm going to have
and I'll
to.
tell you why it's happening. I've downloaded like a bunch of information of that, yeah, they want me to share of why to do it.
And why to do it consciously?
Yeah, absolutely.
John here, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt there says,
His
I look
name is
tired.
my name too.
Did he spell Heimer right though? Depends on what timeline you're in.
What's he want
All
to know?
right. He says I look tired. I wasn't when this started, but I've been, letting it go. So, and somebody early on said, wow, the energy in this room, in this conversation is really great. I thought that was excellent comment. I think that might have been Games. I couldn't agree with that more because I feel that way. Every time I've spoken with Bernadette, it's like the energy in the room just gets brighter. And I didn't even smudge.
Cool.
All right, we're going to end this so you can get on that staggered sleep, and I want to watch that. Thank you very much for coming on again.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. I have no idea why it
It's
got taken
protected
down.
now.
It
No more
is. I'm
protected.
doing it. I'm taking care of
Download.
that. I will be putting your page there. It's Bernadette Gold is her YouTube channel. Bernadette, what is it,
It's
Dickinson?
Bernadette Dickinson Psychic is the actual username, but you can Google Bernadette Gold on there and it will find my channel.
Okay. And she's got her own website, and check that out. She's helped me out immensely.
Yeah.
Bernadette, again, thanks for doing this again.
You're welcome. Talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye.
All right.